For any startup, the first contract is important.
How can businesses protect themselves?
People say, why do we hire the lawyers? You have to be bulletproof in your own conversation. The corporate tax. In the entire world, everything is uncertain except death and taxes.
It's your obligation to be as honest as possible.
On social media, the intellectual property rights violation is very common.
Emiratisation.
Some people, they take it for granted because the fine was not a lot. Why don't you go for VAT registration? It brings more credibility in the eyes of government.
What happens when you fake documents in the UAE?
You can always take disciplinary action. What will that action be? That's the problem.
Welcome to the next episode of the NEET BHERWANI Show. From the time I've started my entrepreneurship journey, I've encountered different problems, but I've kept on solving them one after the other. One thing which I had to keep in mind is to run my business in a way that it is within the laws of the UAE, that it follows the laws, and anything and everything that I do is within the purview of the law, so that because there are hefty fines here in the UAE. There was an instance where I had to create a contract for a particular client of mine, Gulf Bus. I was racking my brains, how do I go about creating this contract? And that is when I came across the bifactology over here, Miss Chandni Malhotra. Welcome to the podcast, Chandni.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
There are many things as an entrepreneur, you miss out on these basic contracts. And just by coming in contact with you, you helped me see what are the points that I had to put. In fact, I want to mention, when I sent the contract, which you prepared, the client was like, hey, Neet, this is not prepared by you. It was such a bulletproof contract that the client had to read it like multiple times before just going and signing. So tell us all about you.
For any startup, the first contract is important. As a startup, it is also very important to get your first client on board.
Right.
For me, it was TNB podcasting, NEET BHERWANI. That was the week I had already given my resignation in the office and I wanted to start my legal consultancy services. And I was just thinking about it and I got my first client on board. That also through my Instagram channel, Dubai Factology. So, that's how it happens. It just had to work for both of us in a particular way. I think I gave my entire 48 hours consecutively. I remember having slept only for 3 to 4 hours because I wanted to give my best. Because I knew this was going to be a long-term relationship. And today, after 5 months, we are sitting here and doing the podcast. Indeed, your work is important. And if your work speaks for you, your relationships will always last long.
What should employers keep in mind while drafting a bulletproof contract?
Contracts form the very basis of any business relationship. It's like every country runs on a particular constitution, like UAE has its own constitution, India has its own. On the basis of the constitution, the entire country would run. Similarly, contract is the very basis how your business will run, how your relationship with a particular client be governed. Now, of course, there are certain things which remain same or uniform in all the contracts. However, depending upon what specifically you're looking for. Maybe, you want to widen your services. Maybe you want to share your liabilities. In that case, you have to change the terms of the contract. Here, I also want to mention that after you, I got my second client also on board even before I got my trade license.
Amazing.
And this second client is also as famous as you, Mr. Neet.
Oh my God.
It is Mr. Car Expert with millions of followers. He also contacted me through Instagram.
Amazing.
And it was just a 30 minutes meeting and he understood me, I understood him. And he hired me as a legal retainer for 1 year. Now, despite the differences, let's try to understand what any business must take care of while getting a contract drafted.
Absolutely.
Not while drafting a contract himself or herself. Because it's your first time, don't get into something you're not an expert at. Okay, just take paracetamol and if there's a problem, go to the doctor.
Right.
First point I would like to highlight is the clarity. As simple as it may sound, it is most important. Most of the terms in the contracts, of course, because it's legal in nature, it has to be understood to the lay person. Try to keep it as crisp, clear as possible. I recommend is that either you have a separate definition section in this entire contract wherein you try to define all the terms separately. Or if you think that, that may occupy a lot of space, try to add an annexure so that you can actually highlight all the points to avoid future difficulties or any discrepancies whatsoever. Second point I would like to highlight here is the intellectual property rights. It is majorly the service industry. Everything is happening on social media. IPR violations, intellectual property rights violation is very common.
True.
Third would be partnership. Most of the businesses which are happening in Dubai are based on the partnership model. You'll hardly find people starting a sole entrepreneurship journey, unless it's you or myself,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
Now what happens is after a point of time when the company is doing really good, especially in the real estate companies. It's pretty common here. One wants to exit and they want to do something better or on their own, or maybe they have got their new set of investors. How can that partner exit? What about those trade secrets? Okay. And what is the worth of your company at that point of time?
Right.
How do you actually liquidate those assets and how do you distribute them? So your detailed partnership agreement is the crux. In the last 1 month, I've got 4 to 5 clients who are all partners in one company or the other. These were so absurd in the terms that it's very difficult for them to exit. Unless there's a majority vote, the person cannot exit. And if at all the person does try to exit, what about the rights? What about the money? Who takes it all?
Right.
So all these things are very important.
You're saying that all these things need to be clarified
Absolutely.
at the time. So what are some things which partners can include in their contract, which as basics, which you've seen people miss out? Like probably 3 things which you can highlight.
So one, of course, is the exit clause. You also have to think about what if, you have to exit. Second is how they have to distribute the assets. And also how do they have to determine the entire assets? What there are some in terms of stocks, what if it's bank account, what if something which accrues in the near future? Maybe your commission has to come after 3 months, 4 months. Third, I would say that about the voting rights. In partnership, it's equal voting rights. But if you want to make some amendments to it, some reservations, you do have an option. But only at the time of entering into the contract, not after it's done.
Most partnerships you've seen in UAE are 50-50%?
Not really. See, if it's 50-50, then it's easy. The problem comes when it's 33, or you have got more than that.
Can the other partner just kick them out any time of the business, or how does it work?
It depends upon your articles of association, memorandum of association, and your partnership agreement, if at all you entered into anything. If you did not have any partnership agreement, then the normal law will apply. And any decision in the company is taken by a majority.
Got it.
So, of course, who's got more will always prevail. So, that's the problem. So, whenever you're doing partnership with somebody, first of all, make sure that you know the person in and out. You cannot just partner with any random person just because you need a visa or just you're looking for stable income. Then you must have a detailed partnership agreement. Must have it.
I am speaking from personal experience. There was someone who we used to work with, and then they went about copying the exact same services what we used to do and started their own company. So we are called TNB Podcasting. Now they are called XYZ Podcasting. So how can businesses protect themselves from people who are trying to copy their business model?
Can you go to the court and sue them?
It's not unless you have a
Trademark registered.
Yeah.
Have you got your trademark registered?
Not yet.
You know the answer. This is the problem with most of the startups. We know most of the things, but we don't want to execute it. Okay, so first of all is that you must make sure that your IP are all the intellectual properties which are involved in your business, whether it be your trademark related issues, whether it be your copyright issues, it all has to be cleared. For example, you create podcasts for different clients. Now, who all can publish those podcasts? What if there's a third party who wants to bring a suit against a person for breaching some of the rights, maybe for defamation? Can they bring a case against you or the client? Depends upon who owns the rights on that video or the reel. So everything has to be cleared out in terms of these properties.
Got it.
Which properties? Intellectual properties. You can't see them, okay? And who owns those properties? There are different type of copycats in the market. I see them generally as either opportunists or they are your villains, okay? If it's an opportunist, they don't want to get into the nitty-gritty of your business. They'll just see it overall and they try to copy the idea and try to incorporate. That shouldn't be a problem because, it's a kind of a competitor in the market who pushes you to do better.
Right.
Second is the villains. They come into the system, they take all your trade secrets and then they try to replicate the model. Yeah. And even if, they're just doing it, it's fine. The moment it starts hampering your business, your productivity, you lose out on your clients, that is where the problem is. Now, there is no law on the planet which stops somebody from being a copycat. Now, what as startups or established businesses we can do? First step that you can do, again, I'll come back to the same point, trademark. Now, this competitor, if they come up with a name called PNB, FNB, anything, imagine if you were not that established and people did not know about it. And if it's TNB and then PNB, people could have, gotten confused.
Yeah.
And this would have impacted your business then. So first is trademark registration. It's a must. I also go to the extent and tell my clients that don't just get a trademark in terms of the name. Try to make a composite trademark. What is composite trademark? It has to have a name, a particular color combination, a pattern, so that people recognize to it. Think about Apple, think about Sony. There's only one color, right? So you just recognize it. If it's any other color, it's fake. or it's a copied version. So don't just go with the name. Try to have some pattern, some logo, some color combination,
Which is unique to you.
unique, so that the users can actually distinguish your products or services from the other person. This is one protection that you can do.
Okay.
Second is about the trade secrets. Like you mentioned in your particular case, your ex-employee did not only steal or took without your permission your contract templates, other information. In that case, what you can do is you can always have a non-disclosure agreement made well in advance. It's not only for your employees, but also in case you have some partners on board. First of all, you have to identify what your trade secrets are. It could be any formula you use to make your podcast. It could be your working method, any confidential information. Mention that all, get it signed beforehand from the employee, from your partners, so that in future, when they leave you with or without notice, you can always go to the court stating that this is what they promised and this is the document.
I think it's a very valid point. In fact, we've started implementing that right now.
Apart from that, also, especially in the UAE, what you can do is make sure when you're hiring somebody, you're doing it by all legal means. Give them a proper visa so that you have enough proof in case something leaks out, you can actually sue them. You should have enough documents. You have to play safe. Then let somebody be the copycat and we can proceed accordingly.
But when you're working with freelancers and stuff like that, how can you protect yourself in that case?
So no matter the person is going to work for full-time, part-time or freelancer, there has to be a contract. You have to get an employment contract done. You have to get it signed. You get the NDA signed as well.
Okay.
So the process is same.
Got it.
When you start your business, it is always important to invest in a lawyer or with a law firm. Find a cheaper version, don't worry. Okay, you can contact me for that matter.
Yeah.
So that in the beginning of the business, you have templates for everything.
Right.
You're talking about a one-day relationship with somebody as a freelancer. I talk about an hour because, a lot can happen in just 1 hour. You don't have to wait for the worst to happen and then protect yourself.
Right.
You should have contract for everything. No matter it is the slightest of the obligation. Or you're going to take n number of services. Even
Makes
if it's a short-term relation, it's a long-term relation.
Makes sense.
Yeah, everything has to be paperwork, everything.
Perfect. So I want to move to a slightly different tangent of employer-employee relations. Can you tell us what happens when you fake documents in the UAE? What are the consequences?
Here, the role of HR comes into picture. Okay, now as per the UAE law, the HR, human resources team, is supposed to be well trained of the UAE labor law. A part of which also would want HRs to always cross-check the documents submitted by employees on one occasion or the other. Sorry to say, but most of the HRs are not well equipped with the labor law.
Okay.
See, HRs, they're not lawyers, but they are supposed to know the basic things, something, around which their work revolves. So in that case, the first thing is HR must always cross-check the documents. In case it is found out that there was something wrong, you can always take disciplinary action against the person. Now, what will that action be? It depends upon the gravity of the situation. Okay? If you're absconding for some illegal work, then, your employer even has power to just ask you to leave because you were out for some illegal work, right? If you were just absconding and not giving any notice for 6-7 days, then also disciplinary action may be taken. They may also ask you to give an apology letter. They may also serve you a notice. So again, the law does protect both the employers and employees in both the situations.
When does it become mandatory? Or what is the best practice you would recommend to businesses? When should they ask for employees to submit medical document?
Okay. So as per the labor law, when you fall sick, within 3 maximum working days, you must inform the same to your employer. Okay. Now, depending upon the level of your sickness and the gravity of the sickness, you may take leaves up to 90 days. Okay. Of course, initially first 45 are paid and rest 45 are unpaid. But, sooner the better. Since the law is saying that within 3 days, you must inform the employer, why don't you do it on the first day? Unless it is, extreme emergency and then you can't just get up. You can't even pick up your phone and call.
Yeah.
So it's better that, the very same day that you think you can't make it to the work, write an email.
Okay.
No WhatsApp, no messages. Because otherwise, if it's not an official communication, then it can be an unpaid leave day.
If I'm not wrong, anything on WhatsApp, as per the UAE law, can be submitted as proof. So why is it that WhatsApp does not work?
You understand WhatsApp, it's more of an unofficial communication. Okay. And the law is more or less same in most of the countries. Right. So you have to see that what is the relationship the parties enjoy. If it was a case between you and myself in the capacity of friends or acquaintances, our WhatsApp communication would work. But if we are talking as clients and I'm suing you for non-payment or otherwise, right? Or you are
Right.
suing me for non-delivery of my contractual obligations within time, then it has to be ideally email communication.
Makes sense.
In the absence of which, if you want to just corroborate, your evidence, if you want to support your case, you can always show the WhatsApp texts, because that can always be manipulated. Your email is your property. Your phone might be used by other people also at home, but your official email is yours.
So if you are sick as an employee or as a team member, communicate via email. That's
Absolutely,
it. Cool.
absolutely. Otherwise, your employer or HR may always say that we never received any communication from you. Nobody is bound to check your WhatsApp. Nobody is bound to check your SMS.
Got it.
Or communication via friends, via colleagues will never work.
If the HR found that the employee has faked documents, has faked this, can they go to the law and sue the person for a monetary amount?
Speaking from the employment relations point of view, if it's between employer and employee, then because somebody is giving you the fake documents, then you can have a disciplinary action against the person, which includes, asking for apology, resignation, asked to leave, etc., etc. Okay. If you want to go criminally against a person, then it's a case of forgery. It's a medical issued by the governmental authority, DHA or SEHA otherwise. So when you're trying to manipulate that, it is also a crime against the state. So that was one crime against the employer. This is one crime against the state. It's up to you whether you want to proceed in both the directions against the person or just one.
Something which I wanted to clarify is Emiratisation. You need to have certain Emiratis in your company, especially if you're something of a bigger size.
So in 2002, UAE government for the first time introduced the concept of Emiratisation, call it localization or nationalization. Expats community, they're not very happy with this option because they say Emiratis may not want to work because they're already privileged. You can't really blame the government for this. What is Emiratisation actually? It's my country. I'm allowing you to come, do the best for yourself, your family, for your country, for my country. But what about my people?
Yeah.
Do you expect me to send my citizens to another country to do job? No. Now, I as a country, I give privileges to my citizens. We have n number of government enterprises and the generations have been working there. I as a government, I'm actually asking my citizens to go and try something new. I'm asking them to go and join the private companies, not owned by their forefathers. So I'm also taking a risk. And it helps you learn from them, they learn from you. So it is very important to amalgamate different society members. It will also help in achieving the diversity goal which the government has been focusing upon. 2002, the government came up with it and they did not implement it on the same day, giving the private enterprises enough time to look for Emiratis, go to different platforms. We have Nafis platform, scroll through their CVs and see who can be best suited for your work environment. And the same had to be implemented by 2023.
Okay.
Despite...
So it was introduced in 2022 and it was, so 1 year. People had a year.
You had 1 year buffer time.
Yeah.
Okay, just take your time, understand the market, see. And I don't think it's that big of a deal to hire 1 or 2 Emirati in that 1 year. Despite so many notifications, things coming up in the newspapers, different reels talking about it, including myself, there were again n number of violations. The government made so much of revenue out of the taxes and the penalties imposed upon the people.
Yeah.
Some people, they take it for granted because the fine was not a lot. So initially when the Emiratisation...
How much is the fine if you can come?
Yeah. So for now, for this year, the target is hire 1 Emirati. Otherwise, 96,000 dirham is the fine for first year, which will continue to increase.
And you need to be an employer with at least 50 people.
Yeah.
Correct?
Coming on to that. So in the first phase of Emiratisation, the government said that if you're a company with 50 or more employees, then you should have at least 3% Emiratis of the total workforce.
Okay. 3% is like...
It's not much, yeah. Now the companies are very smart here. Even if they had 50, so what they did...
They'll take out 2 people.
Yeah, they made it 49, 48. Then they apply for another trade license and then hire other people. Again, it's a businessman strategy, nothing wrong with that. Because when you apply for the trade license, you again pay the fee. And again, you're helping government make money. So directly or indirectly, you're helping the government. They don't understand this, Okay, now this year, as per the new Emiratisation, even if you're a medium company with minimum 20 employees and maximum 49, you still have to have one Emirati
Oh,
on
so
board.
have they reduced the limit from 50 to now 20?
Yeah. So not
Okay.
only for a large enterprise, now it's also for medium one.
Got it.
And of course, after a year or two, they'll also go to the small ones.
Hmm.
Leaving the sole proprietorship, because if you hire somebody else, it's
Yeah. Makes sense.
So that's how it is. I understand the purpose. They want different people,
People, yeah,
to just come
100%.
together, and there is
100%.
no harm in that.
No, for
I think it's
sure.
a win-win situation. We
Yeah.
learn from them. We learn from their experiences. We use their contacts. We may get easy approvals because they know things in
No,
and out,
100%,
right?
yeah.
For this new updated policy, the government has given no less than 1 year time
Right.
to all the private enterprises from 20 to 49 employees to please hire at least one Emirati by the end of 2024. So that next year you don't have to pay 96,000 dirhams as penalty.
We are expats. We are coming over here from another nation, making Dubai our home. The least that we can do as employers, as entrepreneurs, is hire one among their people. Okay, moving on. I want to talk about corporate tax is new. VAT has been there for some time. VAT says that if you are a business who are making above $100,000 in revenue, you are eligible for VAT and you have to pay 5% of your VAT.
You don't pay VAT as a consolidated amount. VAT is being levied at every step of supply chain. Okay, so talking about taxes, a lot of people have not been happy about Dubai or UAE imposing or introducing corporate tax in general, for that matter. So, taxes are crucial for any country. How do the governments give you services, amenities like health, education, infrastructure, defense, most importantly? So the government has to
make money.
Yeah. So for that, government does businesses for which they have oil and gas companies, they have their own airlines. Now, there are different ways by which governments can impose taxes on its people, citizens or expats. Okay. If I collect tax from you and you're the person on whom tax is supposed to be imposed, it is direct tax. Like in India, income tax. It is your income, you're paying me directly. Direct tax. Same as the corporate tax. You're a corporate entity, you're crossing a particular threshold, you have to pay me 9% tax. If as a government, I'm directly not collecting taxes from you, but doing it through intermediaries like retail, shops, etc., then it is indirect tax. For example, sales tax, VAT. Earlier, since 2018, the UAE government had only imposed indirect tax, which was VAT, introduced in 2018 at a standard rate of 5%. People did not have any issues with it. Why? Because it was indirect.
They didn't feel the pain. They didn't feel nothing about it.
Yeah. But when you have to directly pay a good chunk, then of course it's painful. In the entire world, everything is uncertain except death and taxes. It means no matter what, people will die and the governments will collect taxes. And it's happening since ancient times. VAT registration, it's not mandatory for everyone. Understand, there's a difference between VAT and corporate tax. Corporate tax, it is mandatory to register yourself, even though you don't have to pay anything. Now, when does it become mandatory? Your registration depends upon what is your annual turnover, which is the total of the amount of your supplies and imports. There is another option wherein even if you've not really hit any target, you've not even made 1 dirham, but you can still go for VAT registration.
How?
So there are 3 situations wherein you can go for VAT registration. One is the mandatory one, wherein the moment your annual turnover crosses the threshold of 375,000 dirhams, you have to go for it as soon as possible. Other 2 are voluntary in nature. The first one is that you do not meet
180, 185, half of that.
187,500.
Yeah.
So your annual turnover is above 187,500, but lower than 375,000.
Yeah.
It is optional for you. You can go for the registration. The third situation depends upon your expenses, especially for startups. You're a startup. If your expenses are more than 187,500 dirhams, then you can go for voluntary registration of VAT.
Wow. I think as a business, it makes sense to collect VAT. You're dealing with big companies and you are sending them an invoice and they see that the 5% VAT is not added. Immediately in their brain, they think that, hey, this is a very small company. They're not even reaching 187K or even $100,000 of revenue. Register for VAT because it shows your company is making that amount.
Yeah.
It's good for you as business.
But yeah, as a startup, I also focus on the third option, wherein your expenses, maybe, You had a startup, you ordered some furniture, you hired few people, you had to buy laptops, etc. You did spend that amount. Why
Yeah.
don't you go for VAT registration?
Yeah.
Also, it brings more credibility to the name of your company.
Correct.
In the eyes of government.
Correct.
Tomorrow, if you want to go for any loan in the name of the company, you want any favors from the government, if you're VAT registered, you do have credibility.
Oh, wow.
Just like any written document will have more weightage over oral testimonies.
Right.
It brings credibility.
We discussed about VAT. Now you say corporate tax is made mandatory. What is it? Why should businesses care about it?
When you change your status in the eyes of law and you become a businessman, a corporate entity, then also making some profit, then for all the goods and services you're buying or selling, you should pay taxes. So when you pay taxes, not as an individual, but as a corporate entity, that's the corporate tax. And that's pretty much in vogue in most part of the world. UAE has lately introduced it. And because till now, nobody had to really file returns for corporate tax, people are still, just in their comfort zone. For the corporate tax, there are basically 3 slabs. Depending upon which slab do you fall in, your corporate tax liability will be determined. The first slab talks about the companies which make lesser than 375,000 dirhams a year. Same like, the threshold for the VAT registration. In that case, you're not supposed to pay any taxes. I think it's a very good provision for the startups like us. Though, of course, I want to achieve 4 times the same threshold in a month. But
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yeah.
But then we don't have to pay corporate tax till then. The moment you cross that minimum threshold, then you have to pay 9%. That is standard. Third category is for majorly the multinational companies where the taxes may be more than 9% on the basis of the base erosion. I mean, we don't have to get into that. So majorly for the expat businesses here, it is 9%.
So if you're a business and you have made 375,000 dirhams of revenue, VAT is mandatory for you. Okay?
Yeah. And that too after 9 months of the end date. So it was introduced on 1st January 2023. Not every company's financial year starts from 1st June 2023. So depending upon when does your financial year starts and it ends. So for example, mine starts from 1st January 2024, ends on 31st December 2024. After that, I get 9 months time to pay my corporate tax.
Got it. One thing I wanted to check with you is how long does it take to register for corporate tax and how easy it is?
It is very easy. I mean, you don't really have to go to any third party and pay 300, 500. Go to FTA's website, register it yourself. I think just 10 minutes.
It takes 2 to 3 weeks to
For
getting the license, for getting the VAT license.
Yeah, license they'll issue later, but then register you then and there.
Okay.
Yeah, you don't have to show your license anywhere.
No, but when you're working with companies, you have to share with them. Some companies are asking us the VAT license and all. So that will take some time to come.
But then you get the number then and there. The moment you create your account, you get the number.
Okay, got it. So at least if you're working with companies, send them that number. Cool. If you're an entrepreneur in UAE, this is something which you need to know. Let's move on to another aspect of saving the entrepreneurs. We are all about saving the entrepreneurs today. What are 3 things that entrepreneurs need to keep in mind so that they don't get fined in the UAE?
First is, in case your business has more than 20 people, do hire an Emirati. Second is, go for corporate tax registration because again, it's mandatory. Third is, VAT registration provided you fall within that slab. Or apart from that, make sure that you have all the contracts in place. You do have a non-disclosure agreement signed with your employees and the partners and other contracts in place. I think these are the basic things you can take care of. Rest, of course, you can contact me.
Perfect. We have learned so much from today's episode. Okay, so if you're an entrepreneur looking to get started with your business, or you have someone who's already an established business, do get in touch with Chandni because she provides a variety of services. Chandni, I'm going to let you talk about the services you provide, please.
With a decade of experience, I've started my own entrepreneurship in the UAE, and we at Malhotra Legal Consultancy assists the client in getting their wills drafted and registered at relevant platforms. We help you in contract drafting, basically giving all the corporate solutions to businesses. I have been an immigration lawyer in the past in the UAE, so I can also help you relocate to your country of choice using different business programs. Apart from that, considering the fact that in UAE, legal fees is really high in terms of consultation, we also organize 1-day free legal aid and assistance to our clients. So in case you are not able to afford the consultation fees, we'd be happy to help you.
Have your contracts in place? hire people like Chandni who do it for you and who manage it for you. Do get in touch with her. We will leave details of her and her company in the bio for anyone who wants to reach out. We hope you had fun. We hope you learned something new. I certainly did. See you next time. We'll bring someone equally special in the next episode. Thank you.